Hello, everybody. Welcome to the second lesson of our intensive speaking course. Let's get right into it. The topic for today's vocab is going to be places, specifically like locations and buildings, and also the city, generally, city planning. This is kind of like a multi-layer topic. The first lesson was about work. We're also probably going to have a work lesson about studies, but this lesson is mainly focused, especially the vocab, on task one. So this is a lot of the vocab that you're going to be finding and you're going to be using whenever you are answering part one questions, because most part one questions, at least sometimes they will ask you about, like, where do you live? Do you have a house, or do you have a no house? Are you homeless? You know, those kinds of things. And it's mainly going to be asking you about, places. So this is part one vocab. Keep that in mind. It is good vocab, though. I do recommend you to use it 100%. We're going to be blue like this. Yeah, that looks good. My channel, like the logo is like, blue and orange, and I'm like the opposite, so it looks good. Okay, let's get into it. Historic. Historic is basically a type of city that is like very old. For example, Bukhara and Samarkand are historic cities. So if you live in one of those cities, you can say like, I am from a historic city. Yeah, basically. Yeah, historic means like part of history. Next is green, and this is something that I think a lot of non-native speakers, they don't use this enough. Native speakers use this all the time, and this is very important in order to get the best speaking results, because green is actually a great type of phrase. Basically, what green means and what it's used for is whenever you're talking about some kind of place that is with trees. Grass, trees, all those kinds of things, that is green. And this is used in basically everything. Like whenever you're talking about some place that has trees, like a garden, a park, any kind of thing like that, that is green. Just keep that in mind right away. Good phrase, basically, yeah. Usually we don't talk about green when we're talking about like, if we're talking about, say, for example, a forest, right? That's not green because everything there is green. It's only green if like it's a little section. For example, like Central Park is green. In New York. In Tashkent, like Amir Timur Square is a little bit green, like those kinds of areas where it's like you can see the green. That's called green, literally. Sleepy or dull. These are very, very good adjectives for describing places that are not interesting. So, for example, like in Tashkent, this would be, I don't know. There's like some dull places. Basically, any place where there's nothing interesting, right? Like small houses, nothing, no landmarks, no interesting architecture, nothing. That's like a dull place. Most like suburbs are very dull. There's nothing interesting there. Like when you go to, I don't know, Darhan, for example, like in the middle of it, there's nothing there. So yeah. Friendly. This is a place. You can use this to describe a place that is full of people that are helpful, basically. Use it in a couple different situations, but mainly like, for example, if you want to talk about friendly park. It doesn't necessarily mean this doesn't necessarily mean that you know every single person in the park. It just means that as a whole, the attitude, the atmosphere of the place is very friendly. And this can be used in a lot of different situations. Really good word. In general, the words in this in this whole lesson are all very, very helpful. So keep that in mind. Let's keep going. 1 second. I'm gonna pin this. Yeah. Okay. Next is overcrowding. So overcrowding is basically a place where too many people live. That's kind of it. Overcrowded is the adjective that you use to describe a place where too many people live. So overcrowding / overcrowded. I'm going to write that down. Yeah, overcrowded. Good phrase. Good word. Both of these are nice. Suburbs. This is a place outside of the city. Basically, it's not just outside of the city. It's also the place where people live. So, for example, like, let's say Sergeli. Basically, all of Sergeli is like a big suburb because it's mainly where people live. Not a lot of business happens there. There's no like big buildings. There's no big industry. There's no production. It's just where people live. It's small houses, and that's in general that's called suburbs. Suburban. That's like the general term. Next is outskirts. Outskirts is a good phrase. You described it before on this channel. It means far from the center, but in an area of city. So, for example, you have like, the main city, and then on the edge would be the outskirts, or outside of the city. That's also the outskirts. Basically, it's part of the city, but it's really far away from the center, not in the center. Next is inner city. This is like near, for example, near Amir Timur Square. That's like the inside. That's like the center. So we use inner city to talk about that. Let me give you an example sentence. The inner city of Tashkent is quite overcrowded, especially on weekends. If you want to find a more friendly place, you could go to Sergeli, even though sometimes it can be a bit dull. Let's keep going. Shopping district. These two words together used pretty often. I'm not sure about precinct, but district is a pretty good one. This is basically a term that is used to talk about like a place where there are a lot of malls. I just realized why there's no light. Wait a second. Oh. Yeah. That looks pretty good. Yeah. Light. I'm gonna have to look at this later. Anyways, basically a shopping district is like a place where people shop. There's a lot of shops there. For example, bazaars. A lot of bazaars in Tashkent are actually also shopping districts because, like, for example, like Yunusabad. Sorry, not Yunusabad. Yangiabad. Yeah, that whole region. Like Yangiabad and also Kulyuk. I know a lot of Tashkent places. These two places, this whole like place is a shopping district because there's a lot of shops. There's like two bazaars there. It's like a massive place, mainly for shopping. So that all of that is called, as a whole, all of that is called shopping district. Next is industrial zone / business parks. Basically, this is like words that are used to describe areas where there's a lot of things going, a lot of companies, a lot of like, stuff, basically. Yeah, that's like industrial zone, business park. And residential area. So all three of these words are kind of together. I'm going to italicize. No, I'm not going to italicize them. This basically means the place where people live, kind of similar to suburb, but a more general term, more similar than the word suburb. Next, back streets. This is kind of like an alleyway. I'm going to write that down. Alleyway. This is like a place that is not the main road, but it's like another one. But here's the difference. Whenever you say alleyway, there is no negative connotation. So when you say alleyway, it just means like a place where you can walk between two buildings. Back streets is usually what you use when you want to explain some kind of place that is like sketchy. I'm actually going to write that down here. 1 second. Sketchy. I'm going to explain that. Okay. Basically, back streets is like negative. So like some place that's like dangerous, some place that's not very comfortable. Yeah, that's it. Okay, let's keep going. The high street. This is the main road. Usually we use the high street when we're describing like some kind of very small town where there are like, there's only one big street. That's called a high street. That's called a high street. But like usually that's not how we describe it. Next is a commuter belt. So this is the place between the suburbs and the city. What is a belt, right? Specifically in this case, what is it talking about? So it doesn't mean like the belt that you have around your waist. It means like a conveyor belt, right? Like a conveyor, basically, like a conveyor belt. It's like the thing that you have between two places, and it goes like this, and you can put something on top of it, and it's gonna like transport it to the other place. And a commuter belt is like a road that is between the suburbs and the city. And you have a lot of people going from the suburbs to the city because the suburbs is where people live, the city is where people work. So every day in the morning, they go to work by that one road, and then they go home by that one road. So if you're going to be talking about like, your commute, or like, for example, if you get the question for your speaking, how long does it take you to go to work? Let me give you an example. For me, I live in the suburbs. And so the local commuter belt is absolutely terrible because of how many people go there and back every single day. Because of this, I spend about 25 hours every single day commuting, and it's very uncomfortable. Yeah, that's about it. Okay, cool. Let's move on. Let's move on. Okay. Yeah, that's it for this vocab. This is like the general vocab. Let's move on to the more specific topic related words. These ones are a bit more like, different kinds of idioms and all that different kind of stuff. Yes. Cost of living. Cost of living is basically what you use to describe money. Money. How much money you have to spend on, different kinds of things. How much money you have to spend on food. How much money you have to spend on everything. That's called cost of living. Next is pace of life. This is the speed at which life happens. For example, in Tashkent, there's a very slow pace of life. Things happen very slowly. Nobody, really tries to do anything big. While in a city like New York, the pace of life is very fast. So pace of life in general is just like the speed of events. Yeah. Usually you use this to describe a city. Next is sense of community. This is used whenever you're trying to describe a city where everybody knows each other, or where everybody like does things together, or just in general some kind of city where everything is like, connected. So that is like a city that has a very strong sense of community. Keyword strong. Let's continue. Why is it unpinned? Okay, cool. Okay, next is amenities. Amenities are the comfortable and good places in a city, like desirable places. Simple, easy. Okay, congestion, traffic jam. These are two synonyms, and they're used to describe problems connected to roads, basically. Whenever there's a lot of cars on the road and they're not moving, that's called a traffic jam. And congestion is also the same word that you use when you want to describe like your throat. For example, if your throat feels like full, that's because your throat is congested, or your nose is congested. And you can also use that to describe roads. So next is rush hour. This is the time during the day when there's a lot of cars. For example, when people are going to work and people are leaving work, that's like rush hour. Yandex Taxi thinks that there's rush hour in Tashkent 24/7. I hate Yandex Taxi so much. It makes me angry. Okay, let's continue. Lively, busting, and vibrant. I wouldn't say busting is a very good one, but lively and vibrant are very good. This is basically the words that you use to describe like an atmosphere in a city, for example, where it's a lot of things that are happening, like just kind of, a lot of things happening, usually in a positive way. So, for example, there's a lively city, lively discussion, lively conversation, lively walk. All of these are used to describe something that is like good. Yeah. And vibrant is a synonym for colorful or like vivid. And it's also like good, basically. Yeah. Let's move on. Provincial. The way you say this word is provincial. And this is basically used to describe an area of some kind of city, for example. Great word. You can use this to describe like some kind of place, for example, like a region in Tashkent. And provincial something. So, for example, the provincial, I wouldn't say provincial internet is a good way to describe it. The provincial nature is very beautiful. So that means like nature in the provinces, like in the regions. Yeah. Next is sketchy. This is a word that I like to use. This is informal. And it means unsafe or otherwise uncomfortable. So basically, if you go to like some part of the city at night and it feels really uncomfortable, then that part of the city is sketchy. And you can also use this to describe like some kind of, for example, platform. Like if you're trying to walk somewhere and the ground below you is going like this. That's also, you can say the word sketchy to describe that. So yeah, sketchy. Next is assortment. So this is a collection of things, basically. Yeah, collection of things. Simple, easy. Okay, yeah, so that's it for the topic related words. Now let's move on a bit more. These are kind of idiomatic or just general phrases. And some of them you can use to talk about cities. Some of them you cannot use to talk about cities. They're different. We're going to talk about it right now. But these are great phrases. And you can use them for a lot of different like sections, a lot of different parts. It's really, really nice. So yeah, good stuff. Good stuff. Yeah, let's continue. Beep, 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 beep. Okay, next word is, assortment means a collection of things. Simple, I'm not going to explain that. I think that makes sense. Next word will be hoarding. So hoarding is the process of collecting things. And specifically collecting things when you don't know why, right? Like, for example, imagine you have a lot of, I don't know, a lot of, what can you hoard? Something useless. Papers. Imagine you're like studying IELTS. You don't have to imagine that. It's already happening. You're studying IELTS. And instead of throwing out the tests that you already finished using, you keep every single one of them, every single one of your tests. In this case, you are hoarding. Basically, you're not throwing out the things that you should be throwing out. The things that you don't need, you're collecting them too much. So that's called hoarding. That's like it's kind of like a disease. What is this? What did I do? Sorry. Okay, we're fine. Yeah, hoarding. Let's move on. Extensive. Extensive means large or very complete. For example, I have an extensive collection of IELTS materials. Extensive means like very full. Very full, very long, very complete. Next is hold on to. Hold on to is a synonym. It's kind of similar to the word keepsake. Hold on to means to have something, to keep it, not throw it away. It's kind of similar to hoarding, but the word hoarding has a very negative look, has a very negative connotation, whereas hold on to has a very positive connotation. So for example, I'm not going to throw out these shoes. I'm going to hold on to them. Like I'm going to keep them for the future. Keepsakes is something that you hold on to. A memento or a thing that reminds you of history or a person. Basically, one second. My apologies for the grammar. The grammar problems in the explanations. I did not write them. I forgot to check them. My apologies. The materials were a little bit. It happens, though. It happens. I'll make sure to correct them when I send it into the group. Next is keepsakes. So yeah, keepsakes is like something that you hold on to, something that is important for you. You call that a keepsake. Yeah. Let's move on. Sentimental value. Great phrase. Use this. Really, really use this. Find a way to use this on your test. There will be a situation and you must use this phrase because it's very good for your speaking score. You can use this to talk about, for example, something that somebody gifted you, some kind of part of the city, some kind of situation, some kind of gift, some kind of conversation. Anything that is important to you can have sentimental value. Great phrase, and it shows very high vocab and very high level. It's very good. Really valuable emotionally, basically. Emotionally attached is also very similar. This is something that you feel connected to emotionally and something that you don't want to throw away. For example, I'm emotionally attached to my cat, and if she dies, I will cry. For example, I don't actually have a cat. A lot of people are emotionally attached to their cats, to their... You wouldn't usually say family, for example. The difference is like emotionally attached is used when you're talking about something that is not very usually important. Your family is important more than just emotionally. So you shouldn't say, I'm emotionally attached to my family. That is a mistake. Keep that in mind. Let's move on. Next one is surreal. So this is like surreal, like this, and it's kind of connected. Surreal basically means like unreal, unusual, unbelievable, not normal. For example, like surreal situation. If there's some kind of situation that is like unbelievable, like you don't understand it, that is a surreal situation. Yeah, really good phrase. Recommend you to use it as always. Yeah, like good stuff. Okay. Yes. Let's continue. Next is clear out. Clear out means to tidy up, and it's usually used when you're saying like clear out something. So some kind of place. You can use this to describe any kind of place that you're going to basically clear out. Yeah, simple. Clear out my garage, clear out my house, clear out like anything. Yeah. Let's continue. Next word is conversation piece. So conversation piece is a part of your house, some kind of like decoration, some kind of place, anything basically in your house. This has to be a decoration. Keep this in mind. That is there, not necessarily because you like it, but mainly because it is interesting to talk about. For example, a lot of people have different like dead animals, like different like they're not dead, there's a word, taxidermy. Like for example, like you've seen those animal skull, like a fake animal basically. That is a conversation piece. It's there in the house because people like to talk about that kind of stuff and it's like interesting. So yeah. Good stuff for sure. Good phrase. Keep that in mind. Conversational pieces. A conversational piece, especially if you have to talk about like your house on IELTS, it'll be very useful for you. Yeah. Screen. Okay. And lastly is collectible. Collectible, not tables. Collectibles. Yeah, collectibles. I noticed a mistake. Sorry. Collectible is a thing, basically some kind of object, or usually some kind of category of object. It's usually not like one object, but a lot of objects that are very cool for collecting. There's a lot of these. For example, like cards are collectibles. Like whenever you want to collect a lot of cards, those are collectibles. Different kinds of like, in Uzbekistan, I think, what are the popular collectible? I have a question. Is Shahzad here? Shahzad, hey, I have a question. So, has there ever been like a culture in Uzbekistan where people collect different things? Like, for example, stickers or, you know, something like that's very popular, something like that. Has there ever been that in Uzbekistan?
Well, I don't know whether like every single person in Uzbekistan do this all the time, but when it comes to me, yeah, I do. I don't collect that popular things, like stickers of famous people, like celebrities, but I do it with pens. Yeah, some people do this.
Really?
With
Pens? Really? Why pens? Why pens?
because I like them, like especially like beautiful and cute ones.
Okay, that's cool. That's cool. Did you ever have there was this very popular like collecting thing. There's like these little circular thingies, like just a piece of cardboard, and it has like a picture on top of it. And what you do is you play like a game where you slap it, and it has to try to like you have to make it jump. Like, did you ever have anything like that? Maybe.
Yeah. When I was a child, I played that game with boys. Yeah.
Yeah. For example, yeah. So that is a collectible. Like all these kinds of things are like things that you are collecting, right? And that is called a collectible. In general, this whole idea is like a collectible. Yeah. So yeah, cool stuff. Thank you so much. All right. Cool. Okay. Let's continue. Okay. After a second, we're also going to actually. I think here. How about this? This wasn't planned today, but would you like me to tell you about another type of collectible? In general, like the topic of collectibles, I can give you some more ideas about this and I can tell you some information. So if you want me to, raise your hand. Like if you want me to explain collectibles a little bit more. If yes, then raise your hand. Okay, some people. Okay, let me explain it for a little bit, and in general, this topic might be interesting for you guys. Okay, so collectibles have several different kind of like levels of importance. In general, collectibles are usually expensive. This is why they are collectible. A lot of collectibles are not expensive at all, like for example, stickers or different kinds of things like that. But usually, even with non-expensive collectibles, there is a category of things that are like expensive. For example. Not a lot of people maybe know about this, but this is something that I really like to do. This is like one of my biggest hobbies. Let me send this into the group real quick. Yeah. This is basically a collectible card game. This is like a game that you play with your friends. It's a game, and it has a lot of these like cards. They look like this. I'm gonna show you in a second. I'm gonna put it into the Okay. It has a lot of these like little cards. Wait, is it loading? Yeah, there we go. Copy image. I'm gonna paste it. Okay. Loading. Did it work? Yeah, there we go. Okay, so hopefully you can see it. I'm going to delete it after a second. These are basically like cards. They're like very small, and they're collectible. And people play a game with them. There's like a specific game created in order to play with these objects. And usually they're very cheap. It's a piece of cardboard. It doesn't actually cost any money. And people play a specific type of game with them called, Magic. And basically, some of these cards, as I said, they're very cheap because it's a piece of cardboard, but some cards cost up to $500,000 because they're very rare. They have only been printed one time. Yes, you can print more cards, technically, but they're not going to be the same. the only cards that you can actually play with in tournaments are created by the company, and they're never going to create those cards again. And so because of that, some people they have this, like, in their brain, this idea that they need to collect every single card, basically. And in general, it's a very popular hobby. A lot of people really like, collecting things. And it's a popular hobby, at least in the US, at least. And I mean, other countries as well, but mainly in the US. People like to collect different kinds of things. And so, of course, it's kind of strange. Like, why would people want to collect little pieces of cardboard? Another way that we can look at this is, for example, art. Art is also a collectible. It is not something that has any value physically, right? You can't use it for anything. You can't do anything with it. You can look at it. That's it. You can look at it and you can be happy that you have it. And usually they cost a lot of money. That is a collectible. The only additional benefit is that you can actually play a game with those cards. And I mean, this type of idea, this whole, thing, there's a name for it. Unfortunately, I forgot. But another field that we can see this in is sports. For example, a lot of people collect baseballs from different kinds of games. Or for example, shoes. The shoes of a popular football player. There's a very interesting video by Lemon, I think you can find it online, about this specific topic. So yeah, in general, just this is a broad topic, but collectibles are a type of thing that people like to find a lot of. Maybe, for example, every single one, and they like to keep them to themselves. They don't have any value, they don't cost any money, but they are fun and they are cool to collect. That's it. So if you get the topic of hobbies, for example, you can talk about collectibles. You can say oh, I used to collect because for example. Or another situation in which you can talk about collectibles is if you talk about things that people like to do. What do people like to do in your city? Oh, people like to collect, whatever, for example. Just, it's helpful to know. And for me, this is one of my biggest hobbies. It was one of my biggest hobbies, so that's why I can tell you more information about this. Yeah. Let's move on to the question part of today, speaking questions. Let's do this. Shahzoda, if you could please choose one of the part 1 questions and ask me, and I'm going to be answering, if that could be possible.
Yeah, sure. Is collecting a popular pastime in a country?
Yeah. I would say that in the US, there's kind of an epidemic to some extent of people collecting things. For some people, it's like hoarding, where they have their whole house filled with random stuff that they potentially don't need. For other people, it's just purchasing maybe things that they sometimes don't need and then selling them later. So yeah, it's a pretty popular hobby.
Okay.
Another question.
Okay. Do you like collecting things?
Yeah, personally, I really do. It's been one of my biggest hobbies for a while. I like to collect different kinds of cards. I like to collect different kinds of toys for fidgeting, which is whenever you have something in your hand and you're touching it, like a fidget spinner, for example, even though I don't collect fidget spinners, just different kind of objects that are nice to the touch. So yeah, I do enjoy collecting for sure.
Okay, the next one. What items are considered collectibles in your country?
In the US, I think because of how popular this type of collecting culture is, I think anything can be collected. It's more difficult for me to think of an object that cannot be collected. I feel like different kinds of bottles, for example, like cola bottles or Sprite bottles, different kinds of, glass ones especially, they are collected, even glass bottles. Different kinds of cards for playing are collected. Different decks of cards are collected, like, for example, from different companies. Different types of currency and different dollars. The funniest thing is, American currency, most of dollars or quarters or every type of coin, they have different versions from different states. And so, people collect money, which is the funniest thing for me. And one more?
Yeah. What are the benefits of collecting things? That's a good question.
That is a very good question. Yeah, I would say that the biggest benefit of collecting is that you can keep your mind active. For me, I don't really see any benefit in, actively collecting things that you potentially don't need, especially for example, art objects. As much as art objects are interesting, you don't actually get any benefit from collecting them. I would say the biggest benefit is that when you get older, you get to have your brain constantly working, continuing to work. and in better condition than other people, because while you're collecting, most of the time you are really thinking about it and you're really imagining all these situations and like what you're going to collect, how you're going to collect it. So I think the biggest benefit is, of course, the biggest benefit is keeping your mind active. Sorry. Yeah, this is why I collect, because I need my brain to be active. Okay, so let's get on to part 2. No, that's it for part 1. Let's get on to part 2. Give me a second. Let me get a pen. Pen, pineapple, apple, pen. Where? Bruh, can you imagine? I don't have any pens in my house. I'm going digital. The world is going digital. Okay, I'm going to use this. Okay, so let's get on part 2. I'm going to send this into the group, as always, for you guys to be able to follow along. Yeah. Bruh, here it is. Okay. Yeah, Pokemon cards. Someone messaged me. Pokemon cards are also very popular. Pokemon cards are also very popular for people that are collecting things. Yeah, awesome. Here we go. Here's the topic. So part 2, describe a quiet place that you like to go. Keep in mind, this is not you would like to go. This is you like to go, which means this is something that happens often. So yes, I'm going to give you guys 1 minute, me as well. Get some paper, get a pen right now, and start writing down your ideas for like what you're going to talk about. So yeah, 1 second. Wait. Okay, 1 minute timer started. You may begin. Let's go. Okay, so the 1 minute timer is up. So let's get right into it. Yeah, I'm going to be starting the 2 minute timer in a second now. So listen along. Let's get into it. I would like to describe a quiet place that I enjoy going to for different reasons. And this place is the Uzbek National Library, or more specifically, the National Library of Uzbekistan. And I really like going there because it is quite close to my house. I can go there by foot if I need to, even though that is a little bit far, but in general, it's close enough. And I go there about, I think, once a week, something like that. I haven't gone there for a while, actually, because of the fact that I have too much work. So even going that, short of a distance is too long for me. But in general, I used to go there around once a week. And there it is the ideal environment. There I can find the ideal environment to work. I can sit down, I can dig in with my heels and get ahead, maybe 1 or 2 months ahead on my work. Whatever plans I have, I can accomplish anything because of how much I can focus and how much I can feel the concentration of the environment around me. There's so many people and other students that are working around me, and I can really feel their energy, and that really makes me feel more, concentrated and focused on my own work, which is incredible for a fact, for 100%. Usually when I'm there, I'm either, studying, learning something for IELTS, learning something for my own, writing, or I'm working, I'm creating different kinds of content or things like that. And just in general, I love this place because of how comfortable it is and how you have, everything you need in the same place. You have internet, you have comfortable chairs, comfortable tables. Usually you don't have to pay for the entrance, as far as I remember. I haven't been there for a while, so. And another thing I really like is the design. Honestly, design is a very important part for me. It's very important for me to understand that the place that I'm going to, I enjoy going to actually, and I like seeing the things that are around me. So yeah, I'd say design is one of the biggest parts. And yeah, one of the quiet places I like going to is the National Library of Uzbekistan. So yeah, that was my answer for part 2. Hopefully that was pretty interesting. Let's continue. Give me a second. Okay, so part 3 questions. Shahzada, could you ask me some part 3 questions, whichever ones you think are interesting?
Yeah, sure. So the very first question I want to ask is there much noise around your home?
Currently, I would say that yes, there's a lot of noise because of the fact that there's construction nearby, as is the case with most places in Tashkent currently. But I would say that at night there's a lot less noise because I think there's a lot of laws and regulations regarding when people can actually work in the city, which I'm very thankful for. I feel like if they were working at night, I would have much more trouble sleeping than I normally do.
Okay, the next one. How do you think noise in cities could be reduced?
I think that noise isolation is, it's a whole kind of sphere, and there's a lot of information about this. So I'm not sure whether I can give you the best answer, but I can say that one of the best ways to reduce noise in cities is to control different sources of noise pollution. For example, cars, constructions, predominantly constructions, and also different kinds of like public speaker systems. So I think those 3 should be controlled and should be monitored by the government in order to give the best environment for noise reduction.
Okay. Why do some people like to listen to music while they are working?
Well, I can tell you that for sure because I'm actually one of those people. For me, working with music helps me keep a rhythm. It helps me feel like the pulsating beat inside of my heart. And like whatever song I'm listening to, usually it's something very active. I can feel energized by it, and I can feel like I'm really part of, something bigger than myself. Sometimes I listen to music with like both headphones on, and it really helps me just get in this zone where I'm working as quickly as I possibly can. I don't think I've ever worked well, truly well, without music. So I'd say that, people listen to music because they want to, get energized. I think that's the best reason to listen to music while you're working. Thank you. All right, Shahzad, thank you so much. Great questions. Awesome. Let's move on. So that is it for the vocab part of today. Remember, listen back to this and write down like the main ideas of what you were hearing. There are not going to be transcripts for this because the main idea for this part, it's kind of like listening, right? It's listening plus speaking together. You have to listen to this whole part, and you have to listen to this whole part and think about like, what is Alex saying? Try to understand what I'm saying. That's the main thing. Because if you're listening to my speaking samples and you're not getting anything from it, then that's a waste of your time. So you have to try to catch as many ideas as you can. There will not be any transcripts for this. Keep that in mind. All right, let's keep going. One more thing is, by the way, just kind of general announcement. Please do not send your homework to Shahzad. Please do not send your homework to the Alex Speaking Band 9 channel. Also, don't send your homework to Shahzada if you have been doing that. Don't do that. Send your homework to the Band 9 homework channel. It's literally there. You can see it. Yeah. All right. Awesome. Let's continue. Let's get back into it. Okay. Actually, I'm going to be honest right now. My throat is kind of hurting a little bit from speaking. I'm going to ask you a question, Shahzada. How about you answer it, and I'll give you some feedback. Sound good? Shahzada?
I'm sorry. The room is so noisy, so that's why.
Oh, okay. Are you free right now for like
Yeah.
one question? Okay, so here's your question.
Okay.
Why do people go to quiet places?
Oh, question for me. Oh, I like challenges. Why do people go quiet places? Well, what I think about this question is that people usually go to quite quiet places, maybe because of the silence that they need mostly, uh, due to some problems or emotional stress and depression that they have during the day. For example, I am an example of these people. So I can say that I mostly go to quiet places as many as possible um, because I feel a bit exhausted and depressed, stressed during the day. So yeah.
Okay. Awesome. Yeah. I think the best part, or at least for me, my favorite part was like the part at the end where you said like this, and this, and then you said so yeah. So just everyone to keep in mind. So yeah is one of the best ways to end like your speech. It sounds kind of strange, but this is something the native speakers say a lot, and like specifically the intonation. So yeah, it's like so yeah, and it goes up, right? It's kind of strange, but that's the way that we say it. And great the way you said like this, and this. Yeah, just keep that in mind, especially when you're using adjectives. It's very good, very nice. Great job, Shahzada. Thank you so much. Awesome. And I got to rest my throat a little bit. Perfect. Yeah, let's move on to the next next section of today. So today we're going to be talking about comparing and contrasting. So we're going to be talking about so last lesson we talked about comparing and contrasting questions a little bit. We kind of got into the topic. Today we're going to be really focusing on it, and we're going to be explaining these types of questions. Keep in mind, we have 2 lessons about this topic because this is one of the biggest types of questions on IELTS speaking, for part 1 and for part 2 together. And today we're going to be focusing on the vocab that you're going to be using for this. We're going to be focusing on the grammar, actually, that you're going to be using for this, and every single part of that. Because these types of questions are one of the most common. If you remember during the last lesson, as was said before, there are questions about like the past and the present and the future, for example, places, people, a lot of different things, and situations, or like, yeah, basically this type of vocab can be used for, this type of vocab can be used for any question, mostly. These are great words to use. So let's get into it. Yeah. Let's begin by talking about the first thing that you should be doing. So whenever you're giving an answer to a comparing and contrasting question, it is very, very important, and this is something that I do all the time, to give an introduction sentence, I guess you could say. And this directly identifies, very, very important, directly identifies the differences between the two things. So you need to very clearly say exactly what is the difference, exactly what your whole answer is going to be about. What are you going to be talking about? And basically, this is kind of what is here. Here's the kind of phrases that you can use. So, for example, let me pin that. Sorry. There are quite a few differences between this and this. A lot of different like times I say this, right? Or it depends on this and this. I think those are the 2 biggest ones. Let me give you an example. Here's the question. How do you think people are going to learn in the future? Well, I think there's a lot of differences between the way people are going to be learning today and in the future. Perfect. This is literally a comparing and contrasting question that I'm now answering. So it's not a comparing and contrasting question. It's a comparing and contrasting answer that I'm giving a comparing and contrasting Yes. What? Sorry. Okay. I've had a very long day. This is a type of... Am I recording? Okay. I'm going insane. I'm sorry. Long day, as I said. I woke up today at 9 for the first time, I think, like in the past 2 or 3 months. It's been a long day. So, yes, as I said when I began the speech, comparing and contrasting is used for every single question, for most questions, for every section, part 1, part 2, part 3. And you can give this answer to any question. The question that I just asked is not comparing and contrasting, but the answer is. So yeah, keep that in mind. Another way that you can say is, it depends on this and this. So let me give you an example. How do you think people use the internet nowadays? I think it mainly depends on the age of the person. I think that old people, na-na-na, while young people, na-na-na. It's a very good idea if you're going to be using like depends to also give the general idea of what you're going to explain. So if you're saying old people, like, I think that old people use the internet for emails while young people use the internet for something. And then you can say old people, na 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 na, full stop, whereas young people, na 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 na. Perfect, that's it. So this is like a very good structure. Keep in mind that you can use writing structures for your speaking, and this will increase your score by a lot because you're going to be using conjunctions, which is great. It really is great. This is like why I say to so many people, like, 40-60, because by using these kinds of like IELTS writing vocabulary words, suddenly you have good fluency. Suddenly the things that you're saying are logical. Suddenly you know what you're going to say. If you're just speaking without any structure and you get lost in the middle of your speech, you forget what you're going to say, that's bad. But if you follow the same simple structure every single time, old, young, present, future, these like two ideas, then while you're saying the first one, you can also think about the second one. Keep that in mind. This is a very, very good technique, and I would recommend to use this for like every section. It's juicy. I use it a lot. If you listen to my samples, I answer a lot of questions like this. So yeah. Also, keep in mind, if the question is yes or no, you have to state your opinion. So for example, yes, I believe that na 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 na, and then say why. So like, do you think the way people use the internet now is different from the way they used it before? Yes, I do. If you just say the differences right away, then you are not answering correctly. So you need to say something like, yes, I believe that. No. So yeah, let's get into it. First is comparatives. Comparative adjectives. We talked about this in the past speaking course. Let's talk about it again. Comparatives are like much more, quite a bit more, a lot more, not far, but like farther, better, stronger, harder, better, faster, stronger, the Daft Punk song. Anyway, yeah. So basically these are words that you can use to compare. Comparatives, as you probably know. Yeah. An apartment building usually has more public amenities than a beach house. So something than, or as much something as something. Keep in mind, I think we talked about this before. I'll say it again. Comparing and contrasting are two parts of the same question. So you're going to be showing the similarities and the differences together. Keep that in mind. Let's continue. Let's continue. Expressions. This is basically this is not just expression. This is not just expressions. These are conjunctions, and also they are discourse markers. What is a discourse marker? A discourse marker is like, overall, in conclusion, I would like to say that I believe that these are like parts of the speech that you listen to and you immediately understand what the person is talking about, like where the person is. Like, are they beginning their speech? Are they ending their speech? These words are very important. And so these words are used whenever you are, whenever you're going to be describing like, these are words that you're going to be describing your structure. So for example, like, you're going to be speaking, the first idea, then you're going to say, this is unlike, and then the second idea. So, yeah, unlike, different from, in contrast to, you can say in contrast, na, or you can say in contrast to something else. I'm going to put that there. Yeah, different usages. I would recommend you to maybe Google these and try to find out how people use them with different sentences. That is a very good way to learn. Yeah. An example, different from women, men are more rational when purchasing a product. That is so sexist. I disagree. I think men and women think all the same. Keep that in mind. Okay. Yes. And also you can use these phrases if you want to describe similarities between two things. Keep this in mind. Both of them are important. Comparing and contrasting. This is like, we're going to be covering this later, I think. But if you remember from the first course, maybe not, we talked a little bit about brainstorming. We talked about like, how to think whenever you are out of ideas, whenever you don't know what to say. And, you can think from different perspectives. So for example, you can imagine like if there's like a topic about a city, right? Cities, you can say, I think that for people that work in the government, the city is very comfortable. But for people that work in farming, the city is not so comfortable, for example. So like you're thinking from the perspective of different people. Here, by using comparing and contrasting, you have 4 perspectives. Number 1 is, one side. Number 2 is the other side. Number 3 is comparing, so similarities. And number 4 is differences, so contrasting. So 4 different sides that you can think about just by following one structure. Great structure, really just juicy. And these are some vocab words that you could use to describe similarities. Just like, likewise, much the same, similar to, similarly. So good stuff. Yes. Pay attention to the tense. Important. Keep this in mind. Basically, let's read this. Just like the elders, young people are also listening to news radios because they want to know more about the current world. Just like the elders are also like listening. As far as I know, I think the best kind of tense to use for, this is either like present continuous ing, which is talking about like some kind of, something that is always happening, or present simple. I think that's the best way. And yes, it's a simple tense, but like, as you guys know, present simple and present continuous are 2 of the most popular tenses in English. And so that's why I would recommend you use them. Just use them. It's perfectly fine. Like in this case, we have young people also like and want to know. Yeah. Keep in mind though, listening to and to know. So kind of different. It depends on the verb that you're using. So keep that in mind. Lastly, decades ago, only a small number of people had private cars in my town. However, the increasing number of cars causes a lot of traffic and environmental problems today. This is like present continuous. This is past. A lot of people had private cars in my town. This is past simple. So in general, we're going to be covering a little bit more information about tenses because tenses is also a very important topic. But for this, basically all you got to know is that you can use tenses. Like if you have past topic and then future topic, use different tenses. Keep that in mind. So that is about it for today. I got to say, guys, I now have another Telegram channel, which is called Alex Native IELTS. It is the same as my Instagram, which you should be following. Follow my Instagram, Alex Native IELTS. Also follow my new channel, Alex Native IELTS. Same. On my other channel, I'll be posting more tips about writing, listening, and reading. Very useful tips, very useful information. I'm working with some other people now. I don't mean not with Shahrzad. I mean I have a bigger team. I have a bigger team now, and we're going to be creating more different kinds of content. Now I can do this. Watch this. Wait. Now I can do this. Isn't that great? Do you like it? Anyway, yeah. So I hope you guys have a great day, and follow the other channel. It's on my main channel. You can read it there, and also follow my follow my Instagram. Hope you guys have a great day. Thank you all so much. I will send the homework into the group. Bye. And Shahrzada, take it away. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. I'm going to be finishing the recording and leaving. Stop recording.